Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to my hobby blog. I'm excited today because, well, maybe a little excited, but yesterday I watched Avatar 3, Fire and Ash, and this is a 3.5 hour movie. It's part 3 of the Avatar universe that James Cameron is creating. Just for full transparency, I thought movie 1 was pretty great. I gave it like an 8.5 out of 10. The most recent time I watched it, I love the world building. The performances are pretty good across the board. Some of them are great. I love the world building. I love the settings. I love the cinematography. The effects are the best of the best. And in regards to Avatar 2, The Way of Water, I love that movie even more. I gave that one a 9 out of 10 when I first watched it, and I haven't watched it since. I watched it in the theater on full IMAX 3D when it came out. And I was really impressed by it. I loved the slow burn of just exploring this world and culture of the water people. And then all the human shit came in. And this is one of the big issues I have with the series is all the human colonialist resource extraction story angles that we have. Because James Cameron does not really explore this in any deep level. He just sort of has it as a way to introduce conflict. And so when I went into movie 3, I had some pretty high expectations, but I wasn't really thinking it would near anything near rating wise to the second one. The first one, I was like, it's great, but I think I just give it more stars than a lot of people do. And the third one is one that I just did not like whatsoever. I thought the first hour and 45 minutes were an absolute slog. It was so slow. I had no interest in any of the characters because, and I'll be non-spoiler for most of this, and I'll just give some spoiler thoughts, but one of my big issues of this movie is that the first 2 hours and even beyond, but that first initial 2 hours is so focused on the character of Spider, who is the son of the military general from the second movie, and also the first movie, if you'll remember him. And I can't remember the actor who played him, but he's in a ton of movies. He's a great actor. But I just have no interest in that character. I did not like him in movie 2. I thought he was a big weight to my rating in terms of that. I would have given it probably 9.5. I was just so blown away by that movie and it being on IMAX. But Spider is a character who I just don't give a shit about. And I don't like sort of the directing that is on that character because I feel like the actor could do more, but he just doesn't. There's a lot of sort of blank expressions through a lot of his acting. And I don't think it's the actor's fault. I think it's James Cameron's fault, just his direction. And I really wish that I like this character more because he is such a focal point of this movie. And also is the fact that Sam Worthington's character, Jake Scully, he is so in the behind the scenes sort of background for most of this movie because this movie is more about the family that he has and his kids and his wife and also the grandmother of his kids, who is his wife's mother. Like, there's so much family drama in the second one, and it focuses evenly on everybody. So you really grow to care about them all. But in movie 3, it's all about Spider and sort of what everyone thinks of him and the relationships with him. And I love the idea of it because he isn't really part of the family, and that's sort of a huge crux of his character development and his character arc. But the writing of it was just so surface level and did not really explore it in a very deep way, I felt like. I just was so bored by it. And I'm someone who loves character arcs. This should have been the movie for me after such beautiful, action-packed movies that wasn't really deep, like, character study type of story arcs that were sort of what I think James Cameron was going for in this movie. And also, I was really disappointed that we didn't really go to any new locations in this movie because This movie was supposed to be exploring the volcano people. The fire and ash is what the subtitle is for the movie, and we really only see the homeland once, and we don't see it again because everything in this movie is still in the location that the second movie was at. And not having that change of scenery really bombed it for me because I love that area, I love that setting, but I really wanted to see more of the creativity that James Cameron had for this series, and Fire and Ash just wasn't it. I thought the fire people were very disappointing. It's just very underwhelming. They sort of become like the Comanche type of like trope, like what you see in Western movies from like the 50s and 60s. They're just these really bloodthirsty people who take scalps and everyone's afraid of them. But we don't really get any exploration after that. And you're just kind of left there like, oh, they're just kind of like story like tools just to further the plot. And it doesn't even further a plot that is interesting. I did not care about the story in this movie. I really enjoyed the last like hour of the movie, and apparently this is a 3.5 hour movie, and I don't believe it because the trailer's about 3 hours and it started around 5 p.m. and I got out right at 8 p.m. So I don't know if the movie just like skipped a few scenes or something in my theater, but I felt like there was just the pacing was all over the place. That's another issue I had with it. The first 2 hours were a slog, of course, and then the last hour was just great. I really enjoyed it, but by that point, I was just so like done with the characters. It's kind of funny because the subtitle for this movie, Fire and Ash, is a really apt way to describe how I feel about the series, which is that I was really full of a passionate fire when I first started watching the first two movies. And as this movie came away, it sort of just became ash for me. And I'm very disappointed to say that because I really wanted to like this movie, but I just didn't. I just kept falling asleep. I didn't care about anything. And I even slept through the trailers, which is always like 30 to 40 minutes at my theater. So like I was well rested by the time I woke up and the movie was starting because they have that really loud like roller coaster AMC like thing where they bump into all the popcorn kernels. Like that's a really loud sequence in my theater. So like it woke me up really well and I was like ready to watch it. But man, this movie was just a fucking slog. And so I'm going to have to give the rating like a out of 10. I think is like a 4.5, maybe even a 4 out of 5 or 4 out of 10, not 4 out of 5. No way. But this was just such a disappointment for me. I don't go to the theaters at all anymore. Like, I just don't have the money. And I didn't shell out for the IMAX 3D either because it's just an extra like $10. And I'm already spending $20 on a ticket for a new AAA, movie or a Hollywood big budget movie. And so I'm at the point now where I'm okay if James Cameron does not continue the Avatar series because that is something he's talking about, is that he doesn't really, if the sales aren't good enough, he's just going to tell the kind of bullet points for what the rest of the two movies were going to be about, because I think they leave at a very interesting spot, sort of like ushering in the next generation of these movies. But the issue is that you just kind of are left with no care for any of the characters. So I'm kind of like, okay, like, maybe he should just have movies 4 and 5 be very long books. Like, just get a Ghost Rider. I don't know. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if I want to read a book all about that. I just don't care enough. So, I wouldn't mind James Cameron just returning to, like, sort of his early career type movies. Like, that would be amazing. Like Terminator 2 and, movies like that. But, so, this will now be a time where I talk about spoilers, so if you haven't watched the movie yet, or just don't care, or if you haven't watched the movie yet, don't watch it, and if you don't care, that's fine. This movie is very, very one-of-the-mill, in my opinion. A lot of it was predictable, very trope-heavy, so one of the main drivers of the story, as I said, is Spider. He is the son of the military colonel, and he is sort of becoming one of the Na'vi, one of the Avatar people, because he's a human, he has dreadlocks, and within his dreadlocks is a little avatar sort of stem that he's able to connect with. And most of the movie is about him trying to accept that he's sort of like a new type of species. And he doesn't know whether he should go with the humans or with the Na'vi. This is a really interesting internal conflict to have. I was really hoping that this would work for me, but it didn't. Because by the end of the movie, he's just sort of like, yeah, no, screw humans, all this stuff. And his father, at the end of the movie, after this really epic fight between him and Jake, amidst this very, like, not volcano, but, like, magnetic field where, like, islands are, soaring up into the sky and all this crazy shit's going down. His father saves his son, because his son is trying to not kill him, but just trying to, like, wound him in the knee. And Jake has the entire movie, his sole purpose in the movie, has been to try and convince the Colonel to switch sides to the Na'vi. Even though he's been leading this sort of genocide against the Na'vi people in the first and second movie, and also destroying the homeland, all this different stuff. And it was really disappointing to see this, because I thought he was pretty irredeemable after the first two movies. And in this movie, he's sort of, like, going back and forth between the Na'vi and the humans, trying to, like, convince them to only get Jake, but also get his son, but also, like, hey, show them how powerful we are, burn down a building of theirs. And, like, just pissing off the Na'vi people that are in the water. And it was just really frustrating to me, because, again, he is not redeemable. So why are we focused on this, and why is it such a major focus of the movie? And by the end of the movie, he is convinced, to switch sides, because Jake is like, you can tap into everything. You have, the stem off of the back of your head. Like, why don't you do it? And he's kind of like, I'm not Na'vi, like, all this stuff. Now, the end of the movie, they are fighting each other, and they both sort of fall off a cliff in order to save Spider, because Spider falls off, and his father catches his hand, and he's falling, so Jake catches the Colonel's hand, and they're all kind of looking at each other like, oh. And they pull each other up, and the Colonel is like, well, this is awkward. He literally says that, which I thought was a very funny moment, because it was kind of like, he then says after that, he's like, oh, what do we do now? And that was sort of like, I don't want to be cynical and think that James Cameron just had no ideas of what to do with this character next, because I feel like he could have a whole redeemable arc in movie 4, and I would love to see that. But James Cameron decides to have the other Na'vi people come in, and they want to kill the Colonel. So the Colonel is like, sitting there resting. He's getting medical attention from Jake. And he's kind of like, oh, wait, never mind. And he launches himself off of the fucking cliff and kills himself right into the fiery sort of inferno that is beneath them, as the ships are exploding and islands are floating up into this nexus. It was so disappointing. I hated that aspect of the ending. I was really hoping that he would have this whole redeemable arc, but it doesn't do that. And there's even a point in the story where Jake is almost about to kill Spider, because he thinks that the military from Earth is just going to keep sending people until they can basically overpopulate Pandora in order to basically have this, like, half Na'vi, half human hybrid, because he is that, Spider is. And it's just really disappointing, because I was like, man, that would be such a great, like, emotional thrust for movie 4, is the Colonel having to redeem and learn about the Na'vi and pay for his crimes in their own system of, justice. But no, he decides to just kill himself and escape justice. So the one part that I was looking forward to in the later movies was just killed off. And we have this really great emotional moment, meanwhile, where Jake's daughter and his other son, they are down deep in the water trying to contact, like, the birth mother of the Na'vi, the foremother or something like that. It's kind of like a Zeus type character of how he's like the forefather and all this stuff. And they're trying to reactivate sort of like the entire nervous system of Pandora in order to bring all these deep creatures from the ocean up and to help with the fight. Amazing. I love that stuff. That storyline was great. I have no issues with that. That's why I gave it a, I guess, 4.5. I'll give it. Maybe a 4. I'm still undecided. But I really enjoyed that. But meanwhile, all that's going on with Jake and Spider and the Colonel and all that, the daughter's having seizures and just after every time she tries to connect with the mother. And it gets to a point now where they are able to connect with it, and they have this big like Star Wars ceremony event at the end of the movie within this nervous system, which I loved the idea of, but it's really awkward because Sigourney Weaver is there, who was in the first movie. She's the mother of one of the characters, I think the one who has seizures. And she's like, I knew you could do it. And like, it's supposed to be this great emotional moment. But again, so much of the movie is focused on these other characters. I just don't care. And I really wish they had given a lot more screen time to the daughter. And also the rest of the family. It was just really disappointing. There's really not too much other things I want to talk about. Those were sort of like the main points I want to talk about that I was really disappointed with. Again, I love the world building, but again, most of the movie is with the water people. There's maybe 15 minutes dedicated to the volcano people, who end up just being basically like traitors to the Na'vi and aligning with the humans, which I had no interest in. I thought that was stupid. I hated it. So yeah, I guess that's it for today. Please let me know what you think of this review, what you thought of the movie. Maybe I just am just, I don't know, mean inside and I should have liked the movie more, but those are my thoughts. Thank you all so much for watching, and please have a great rest of the day.